use?
Yeah, it's your cup, so I use it.
I like that. It's how you pay homage to your father.
Yeah, I drink out of your coffee mug all the time, man.
I appreciate that.
How you doing today?
I am wonderfully well, raring to go. I feel like we have left our audience down. We have not communicated with them. It seems like in days, weeks, months, perhaps even years.
Could be years, could be years.
Okay.
All right, today, title of today's video,
Yes.
what the heck happens when the salesman says, let me go talk to my manager, or I need to go ask the manager, I got to go to the manager's office. And I think, all of us that are contemplating buying a car in the past, we've experienced that when we go into the dealership. And
Hmm.
nowadays, when we're doing everything virtually, we
Hmm.
still get well, let me go talk to my manager about that.
Yes.
You were that manager for decades. What
I
the
was
heck
I
actually
was I was the man behind the curtain. That is correct. Yes.
happens? So what goes on?
Okay, so here's the rationale behind why a salesperson has to talk to his manager. Trust. The manager does not trust the salesperson to, I don't know, work as hard as possible to maximize the amount of profit in a deal. The managers feel as if the salesperson will cut to the chase and the bottom line number, I don't know, right after saying, hi, my name is. Okay. So sales managers are tasked by ownership to try and show gross profit. They're tasked to try and maximize the profit in any given deal.
Okay.
And so most sales managers operate out of fear. And the fear is that if they don't control everything, well, then what the heck, the profits are just going to go way down.
Okay.
And that really is a misplaced fear. Most customers would prefer to deal directly with a decision maker.
Yeah.
So that when a customer says, can you make this X amount of dollars less? The salesperson is actually the decision maker and can say yes or no. Now, the sales manager's new fear is that the owner will realize, well, what the hell do I need the sales manager for if the salesperson can make that decision?
Did you ever feel that way when you were
I did not.
Okay.
I used to empower my salespeople. I wanted my salespeople to be able to be the ones to say yes or no.
No, but I mean, did you ever feel like that you were disposable, like you made yourself disposable?
No, I always thought that I brought other things to the table
Gotcha.
rather than just maximizing profits in a deal.
Yeah.
I thought I brought things to the table about how to better take care of our customers, how to find better ways to grow our business,
Yeah.
as opposed to spending my time babysitting salespeople and working all the deals. I thought it might be more beneficial if I could come up with ways to, I don't know, figure out how to bring us more customers.
No, I understand.
So that was my mindset. But most sales managers, that's not their mindset. Their mindset is that they need to be in control. They're taught early on. You're taught early on as a salesperson, whoever has control wins. Okay, and so car salespeople don't ever want to give up control to the customer. Sales managers don't ever want to give up control to the salespeople. Finance managers don't ever want to give up control to the sales managers. So it's just this ludicrous stream of people that don't want to give up control. When in reality, we all know from having done it as long as we have what the bottom line number really is. So rather than make it a marathon and make it challenging for the customer, empower the salespeople to be able to make the decision as to what is acceptable or isn't acceptable.
So I understand that's the why. So that's why
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
salesperson.
Now you want to know what actually goes
Yeah,
on.
like spill the
Okay.
beans.
Okay. Spill the beans. So what goes on for the sales manager? It's like being in a chess match. Okay. When you're dealing with the salesperson who is dealing with the customer, the sales manager is always trying to be 2 or 3 moves ahead of both the salesman and the customer. So when you're negotiating a payment, say, or a price, whatever it might be. Let's say you've offered the vehicle to the customer for 29,750, and the customer says, I want to be at 29,000, and the salesperson comes in and says he wants to be at 29,000. The sales manager knows that the customer would really like to be at 29,000, but doesn't really expect to get to 29,000. And he knows there's a higher number that the customer is willing to spend. So the sales manager might say something like, go back at 27.5, 29.5, whatever, whatever the number is. And then when the customer says, well, I can't do 29.5, but I could do 29,250, sales manager knew that all along.
Yeah.
And when your customer says, I'll do 29,250, pull the trigger, make the deal. So what goes on with the sales managers, he's trying to be 2 or 3 steps ahead as to what the thinking is going to be to get a customer to finally say yes. But the other things that go on is the sales manager is going to quiz the salesman as to, well, what's your client's mood like? How much do you think there is for movement? Are they willing to move? Are they entrenched in their position? Is there a reason they're entrenched in their position?
Yeah.
Are they ready to move forward? Have they committed to actually doing the transaction today? Because as we've discussed before, the 3 most important letters to a salesman and a sales manager is NOW. What's it going to take to make it happen now? So are all those things in place? And if you have the commitment to move forward, then the sales manager will come up with a plan of attack to hopefully get there.
So it's really like the sales manager is kind of the immovable object in this whole process, and is also the person that, if you're the customer, is really impossible to actually get access to as well, so that you end up having to negotiate through this middleman. Is that kind of the whole game?
Yeah. Until of course the salesman comes back and says, I can't get the customer to move to where we need him to move to in order to be able to make a deal. At which point the sales manager has to get up off his lazy ass and go out and actually shake the customer's hand, try and be as charming as he possibly can, and move the customer to where they need to be moved to. I know that when I used to go out and talk to customers, I used to tell them point blank, the reason I'm here now is because so-and-so just couldn't get you off the ledge. We understand you're like on the edge of the cliff and you're afraid to make that leap.
I really do not like this analogy.
And my job as the sales manager,
get you to jump off the cliff. Where are you going with this, Dad?
Just listen. My job as a sales manager is to persuade you it's okay to make that step. Okay, that as you're falling, I'm going to reach into your pocket. I'm going to take out the requisite amount of cash that I need in order to make the deal happen, and I'm going to grab you and save you before you hit the ground.
But you're going to make sure you get the money.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Are you ready to get started? And people would just look at me like I was nuts. Okay?
I think you're nuts.
It is nuts, but it worked. So really, they're on the precipice of making a decision, and my job is here's my theory. The customer comes in there because they want to do something.
Sure.
Okay. And my job has always been to help convince a customer to do what it is that they wanted to do, just sometimes maybe sooner than they wanted to do it. But ultimately, they really wanted to do it. And is there any real value in spending 4 hours at the dealership you're at now, and then another 4 hours at another dealership, and 8 hours at another dealership? And so here's a truth that nobody's going to tell you about. And some of our viewers might agree and they might not. But when a customer says to a salesman or a sales manager, I want your best price, what they're really saying to you is, I would like to make sure that I am not overpaying, okay, that you are treating me fairly. So what they're saying is, can you share information with me that will make me comfortable knowing that I am not being taken advantage of? They're
Yeah.
not really asking for your best price. They're asking for the price that's going to make them feel the most comfortable so they can move forward with the transaction.
Something that's fair.
Okay. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with fair.
And I think this whole mystique behind the manager in the office and not being able to access them and having to work through the salesperson kind of perpetuates this. It's antiquated, and
Yes.
it goes against everything that you talked about at the beginning, which is why can't we just give them the bottom line number up front, which you've talked about in myriad videos. The way that pricing for cars is done is BS and really should be revised to bring it, up to date with where we are. But it
Yes.
also perpetuates this kind of gamesmanship of making a car deal, where you actually, the dealer is not making it any easier. It almost builds this adversarial us versus them type approach, where the salesperson is caught in the middle. And I know you've been in the salesperson role, you've been in the sales manager role. Um, it's not pleasant.
No, I've been the hired assassin. I mean, at one store that I worked in, I was a closer. There was sales managers, there were closers, and there were salespeople. I mean, there were multiple layers, and I was the assassin. I was the closer. I was the one that had to go in and convince the customer to take the deal.
Yeah.
And truth is that I've always preached that we should make it more collaborative than adversarial. Um, and the older I've gotten and the longer I was in the business, the less I was enthralled with the idea of having it take hours upon hours upon hours
You just
to
wanted to
get.
come home.
I wanted to, I don't need the aggravation. If we're going to end up at X, if we're going to end up at X 4 hours from now, well, why not just end up at X, I don't know, 2 minutes into the goddamn transaction?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to have those 4 hours of my life back, and I'm sure the customer would like not to have to spend those 4 hours.
The closer you got to retirement, did you get more open to doing that, to just being like, fuck,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And I learned a long time ago that you might as well just do what you're ultimately going to do up front rather than take all that time to get to ultimately. If you know in your mind, if you know in your heart of hearts that ultimately you're going to get the $29,000,
just go there. Just
then
make
go there. You know, uh, why put everybody through the aggravation? That's what. That's the reason that people hate buying a car, because we in the industry make it difficult for them.
yeah.
And we now, being on the outside helping customers, we're ultimately the customer for our clients, and we know how difficult it is, and we know how frustrating and aggravating it is, and and everybody's learning that it really doesn't need to be that way. It's just dealerships choose to make it that way.
Well, and you've got to imagine, they preserve some profit that way. I don't want to say they take advantage of people, but some people don't get to that bottom line number because they don't feel comfortable enough negotiating. And so from a dealership perspective, I get it. They're saying to themselves, sure, the process stinks, but we still make more money this way.
Yeah, well, that's because there's nothing immoral about a profit. Okay. And a profit is what allows the dealership to stay in business. Nobody's building these facilities with the hopes of, well, I don't know, losing enough money to have to close them down. I
I
mean,
agree.
yeah, they're being built because they're profit driven retail outlets. But you can establish the profits that you need and minimize the pain in getting to those profits with a different business model.
And that's what you've got to think, this whole what goes on in the manager's office question. Hopefully
Mhm.
this video is obsolete 5, 10, and it's not gonna be 5, but maybe 10 years from now, this video should be totally pointless, because by then we shouldn't have to go through the manager's office. You've got to imagine that if dealerships do want to continue to be profitable into the future, they need to make it a less painful process, which could take us out of business. Because what do? We do the pain for our customers. We're the
Mhm.
ones beating our heads up against the wall to make deals. as the advocate for our clients. But you've got to imagine that eventually there'll be this tipping point. And I think we see it with our business, with Carvana, with the CarMaxes of the world, moving away from this, what's going on in the manager's office? Like, why can't I talk to Ray? It's like, no, you can, and you can get an answer, and here's the price.
Well, and oftentimes the other thing that's going on in the manager's office is we're trying to determine what it is that we're going to eat for either lunch or dinner or our afternoon snack. Oh, is it time for a fresh cup of coffee from Dunkin'? Things like that. There are important things going on in the manager's office that have absolutely nothing to do with car deals.
I'm sure like during March Madness, the manager's office must be the most fun place to be. I mean, it's just everyone looking at their brackets and the office pool and things like that. There's no card deals being made, I take it.
Oh no, there's car deals being made, but there's thankfully managers have two monitors, so one monitor's on the games, and one monitor is, well, I don't know, working a car deal.
Hey, well, if you have questions, if you want to know more of the ins and outs of the business, leave a comment down below. I'm more than happy to talk to Pops about it and get his take on it. This one's always been really interesting to me. I even remember sometimes when I'd come visit you, bring your kid to work type of day situation. I couldn't believe how crazy busy it was in your office. Like, 24/7, you would have 3 people in there talking to you all at the same time. I had no clue how you actually got any work done, which also kind of, again, perpetuates how dumb this setup is, because you have all your salespeople that then have to be routed through one decision maker. It's really dumb. That's why it takes 4 hours. God. Yeah, if you got more questions about the stupidity of the car business and also maybe some of the innovations, leave them down below. We'll address them. We'll talk about them.
Are you ready for our outro?
Hit them with it.
Okay. We're done, folks.
I
Hope you enjoyed it. Yeah.
We can make a t-shirt. It just says done.
Yeah.
And when you're like with your face on it or something, right?
Yeah. I see we'd have to give those away for free.
I'd buy one. See you, Dad.
See ya.